Welcome back to Have You Heard, the social media podcast by us here at The Social Shepherd. My name is Zoe, I'm the CEO here, and today I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Jack.
And I'm Joey.
So we've got Jack, who is my other co-founder, and we've got Joey, our senior paid media director here. And today we are going to be talking about AI. Now, I want to preface this conversation by saying none of us in this room are AI specialists. We are navigating it like the majority of those of you listening and trying to see how AI can aid us, help us be more efficient within the workplace, and generally trying to work with us, with it, as opposed to against it, has been our general sort of consensus as an agency. We see a lot of benefits to artificial intelligence, particularly as it learns more. So we're going with it on the journey. We're not necessarily shying away from it.
100%.
But I wanted to start this conversation because, Jack, you sent me a message, a screenshot yesterday, and I think it's legit, but, don't quote us on it if it's not, but it was a screenshot that someone had sent that Mark Zuckerberg had published internally at Meta, basically saying that Meta is working on building some of the most important technologies in the world, AI glasses as the next computing platform and the future of social media. This is going to be an intense year. He then goes on to make a very loud statement to say he's just going to fire a whole load of people if they're not performing, basically. We don't need to get into that today. But what I did want to talk to you guys about was AI glasses and how we think social is going to evolve. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing internally and some of the platforms that we're using to drive some efficiencies. So AI glasses, what do we think?
I say phones are no longer in 10 years' time.
Is your mic okay?
Yeah, my mic's okay. Sorry, I'm just holding it. I believe mobile phones as they are today, will no longer be an item people own.
That is a bold claim.
No, I completely agree. I think we'll all be like you, two speckies. You won't feel left out anymore.
Because it's just the way over the last few years, we've all been introduced to wearable tech some way or another, and it's sort of like stepping stones to what it kind of gives you a sense of where the future may lie, because it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time to get there.
Well, it's like the Meta Quest. Was the Apple, or they had Meta Quest and they had the Apple version, didn't they, of the goggle things that you could wear?
Yeah.
And like, I'm not gonna lie, don't like the fact that they were so bulky, but the user experience in that actually looked really cool, and the fact that you could have that in front of you. And I think what will end up happening, I personally think, Jack, you probably disagree with me, is that when we're like on and at work or at home and wanting to socialize, we'll have our AI wearable tech on so we can just do that as we're kind of sat there. And I think we'll become more purposeful about human interaction. It'll be a place where you'll go like, okay, I'm going to take my AI glasses off, for example, so that I don't have this. Can you imagine having a coffee with a friend?
In the first instance, and then...
No, but that would be really sad for the human race. Like if you were having coffee or dinner with friends and you just had all these like distractors popping up around you.
It's like Black Mirror though, isn't it? I swear there's a Black Mirror where there's all sorts of this stuff.
Well, yeah, there's the one where they like you look at someone and it tells you like what rating they have, like on like how cool they are, and you can like give them like points.
I hate that, but yeah. No, but I think in terms of like disrupting the phone as a device, like obviously that's hard to comprehend, because we've grown up with mobile phones pretty much since all of our existence to some degree. But with that, every new technology just gets replaced by something better. AI glasses, it takes away phone, calling people, texting people capability, because you'll speak into it. Text this person.
Payments.
I mean, payments are all being done by watches and...
Yeah, true.
Stuff.
Like
even if you don't have a ring now, because
yeah.
You've got all of the Aura rings and all of that. Like Samsung have got their own rings now as well.
And then you've got, like, it will naturally replace maps. It's already shown, the videos about the AR glasses are already shown. It'll literally go in 100 yards, turn right in your glasses, and it'll show you the directions, like...
Well, I guess the main thing, as with anything, whenever it comes out, it's going to be really expensive to start with, and then it will come down to a price point that's much more easily accessible for people. I do genuinely think that is where we are going within the next 10 years, though maybe a little bit sooner in some ways.
These glasses will be able to read where you are and tell you information about the road that you're on, the attraction that you're at, everything like that. So it'll be able to see the landscape, taking all the information, data points that it's got available to it.
Do you think there will be, like, at the minute, obviously there's a lot going on, and for some reason social media and tech and AI and data protection is getting wrapped up a lot in politics and sort of, you know, what's legal, what's right, how does this work for the world? Do you think there will be any kind of like political or legal pushback on wearable tech? Because I guess if you're giving AI the capabilities to see everything that you see, it's going to learn quicker because you know, generative AI is up and coming, and it's kind of the future basically. But do you think that countries and those in power will push back on that and say we actually don't want it to have those same learning capabilities?
I believe countries care about progress and increasing, like advancing technologically. So if they don't, it's countries that don't take these things on board end up losing productivity in their work, in the overall workforce, which makes their country less powerful, generates less tax revenue and stuff like that. So I think, generally speaking, countries do over time move towards like utilizing this technology. Otherwise, they get left behind, and it's a fight.
But it's not just from like a development standpoint as well. It's like if you have to look at the defense sector in terms of the usage of like AI, in terms of that is absolutely like, amazing in terms of what it would be able to do for that. If countries get left behind from the defense standpoint, that's game over.
What do we think about it? So if in 10 years time we're all wearing wearable glasses, we don't need to bring a laptop to work, we don't need to bring a phone to work.
It'd be great.
We just turn it, yes, because you wear glasses all the time. How do we think that's going to impact the workplace? Like, if we're not, do you think people will, is it going to push us into more of a remote space? Do you think we'll just use workspaces more smartly? Like, how is that going to change?
It's a really interesting dynamic, because I feel like the workspace where you're coming to work to socialize with, have social interactions with other people, it almost takes away from that a little bit, because if you're so ingrained in a system that's sat on your face, then at what point do you kind of detract away from that? And we already know at the moment that people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So do we think that people are actually going to want to take off glasses and go away and interact, or are they just going to be sat there?
I think what would be a really healthy way to do it, and I don't know if society's going to do it the healthy way, would almost be if like your AI glasses or whatever it is that you're using, which are your phone, you can almost like click them, and it puts a notification on your Slack, it puts a notification on your email, say like this person is away from their tech at the minute, almost like focus time. And you go into a meeting and you say, hey, can everyone take their tech off? Like, we need human time now, basically. I think that would...
Human time.
But I think that would be a really healthy way to do it. Like, you could do that if you go for dinner with your friends. Like,
definitely
you're unreachable. Like, this person is taking time away from tech. I would love that.
That would definitely.
I just think it's so dangerous, because at the moment people are just always just sat there looking at their phones, no matter what. I'm dreadful for it at home. Like, I'll just sit there, I'll be watching TV, but then I'll be like, no, actually, I'll doom scroll on my phone. And like, at what point does it create that disconnect between actual reality and then what you're doing? Because at the moment, at least with the mobile phone, you have some level of disconnect because it's not attached to your person, although people will say that mobile phones are attached to people. But
the previous to that, though, was doom scrolling a newspaper. So what's the difference?
Scrolling newspaper.
I'd argue that a newspaper is maybe better for you to...
No, seriously, you see photos of today, and like, on the tube as an
I
example.
don't think, Jack, it's not the same thing.
I think
the quality of content on TikTok is significantly decreased from a newspaper, even if it was 100 years ago.
I think there's more factual information from that than
from TikTok.
Yeah, I think it could. I think
you want stem feed.
Well, this is different from AI, isn't it? It's veering away from that, but yeah.
Okay, that's a statement and a half. Doom scrolling the newspaper. Yep. Okay, nice. Okay, I mean, I think we all know that we're going to be in a much different workplace in 5 years than we are to today. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I think there's probably a few ideas in there that may come true. The other thing I want to talk about today was just as I said, we're really trying to embrace AI as a business and are doing quite a lot of work on it. How do you guys use AI on a day-to-day basis to make you more efficient? And what have you found to be the most helpful? Because there's a lot of tools out there. There's also a lot of shit out there, to be entirely honest, that you get sold into and you're like, this actually doesn't do anything, or it's not smart enough to be able to help me. So what have you guys used that maybe wouldn't recommend, and what would you use that you would recommend?
I think there's a fine balance between the usage in terms of actually getting something beneficial out of it and being able to look at something and being able to believe what it says. There's a lot of AI models out there at the moment, ChatGPT in particular, where you do have to question the quality of the information that it is feeding back to you. So it's really good for some sort of thing. So for us at the moment, it's really good for like text generation, for example. That's what it was kind of born to do. So utilizing it to generate text is super helpful. So if we're looking to write copy for something, for example, it's really, really good at doing that. But when you're trying to search for specific information, for example, because it's crawling the web for that information, there's a lot of misinformation, fake news, everything on there. What it can spit back out at you could be absolute rubbish. I've seen instances as well where it's also not very good at maths. And you say is like 3/8 bigger than 4/8, and it's like, yes, 3/8 is bigger than 4/8, and then it comes up with some waffle below it, and it's just like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I've definitely found it in terms of information not being 100% when I do the actual fact finding afterwards to see, double check that. So I think it's tricky.
I think the main thing is, I think as like humans, sometimes we fall down this path of just thinking anything that technology or like a logical system tells us is accurate. And I think the biggest sort of danger to us at the minute is like to lose our ability to think critically on something and to question something. Because I've seen it too. Like, and I pay for ChatGPT Premium and use it quite regularly. I'm not saying it's the best out there, but it's learned, it knows me. For now, I'm happy with it. But I don't ever like copy paste what it spits out at me. Like, it is utilized for like, you know, working in 2 time zones. I'll say, oh, could you rewrite this in American English, for example? Or could you write this to get a tone of empathy across better, for example? Like if I'm in a rush or something of that nature. But you have to question what it spits back out at you. You can't just take it as... But that's with anything. Do you know what I mean? I would struggle to understand why anyone would think you can ask artificial intelligence to scroll the web and save you time having to scroll the web yourself. But if you were doing that work yourself, you would still think critically about the information you were intaking. AI doesn't have some magic skill where it can do that different to what you can. The whole point of AI is it's trying to mimic human behavior at this point in time.
Yeah, you can prompt. There are obviously prompts to it, and there are obviously more technical routes to enhancing what ChatGPT is. You know, you can get the API tool as a part of it, you know, with OpenAI, and then plug that in as a part of other technology that you might be using that can almost maybe fact check for you as well. Because some things that I've been doing recently for our SEO, looking at how we can sort of scale our articles that we have, not written, just copy paste AI, but they can't scrape. If I enter a domain name into it, it can't have the ability to, doesn't have the ability to do that. But there are many other tools that do. So just combining how you can use that in conjunction with other tools. And one big topic at the moment, which I'm seeing all over the place, is like AI agents. Is creating like basically an employee that works 24 hours a day using AI, and it all speaks to each other. You know, let's say for SEO, for example, it could do one bot or AI tool will do topic generation that then feeds it down to another AI tool that's creating the outline. That outline then goes in and then produces an SEO written article, and then another tool, it automatically follows through to your like website.
So you're giving like almost AI personas and with job titles that have different things to do. Like you need to check this from this person. So interestingly, Lorraine will have to bleep the name of this. So I'm going to say anyway. Whenever I met up with one of the clients, he obviously did a lot of Google's early AI, particularly whenever it came from like YouTube and kind of the overtake of when YouTube really started to overtake Facebook, for example. And he and his wife, who are both really high up in the tech space, have been building their own AI assistants themselves. And they actually called them AI interns. So they, in their business, don't hire anyone that is below like a senior manager level because they utilize AI to do it all. And I do think that is the worry for this industry in general, is that it's going to be harder for younger people to come into the workplace because AI is naturally going to take away some of those more administrative, more day-to-day management level roles in the next couple of years. I'm not saying that you won't need more junior people in it, but you'll need less of them. And then it's going to be harder to kind of get that jump to go from I have done enough of the doing to be able to know well enough and be informed well enough to be a senior manager or a director and above. And I think we're going to have to be really purposeful about how those training programs are laid out for junior people coming in so that they're not missing out on the ability to learn because AI is doing a lot of it because it's more cost effective for businesses, unfortunately.
If I was, let's say, at uni right now or thinking about my career in the future, and I was of that younger demographic, I would be like head down in AI.
Yeah, I
every
agree.
day,
I would
taking
too.
courses. And if you can come into a business with all those skill sets of today, knowing so much about AI, I can help you do this, this, and this. They're going to be so valuable. Like that's where people need to shift how they think about their learning.
I think the importance of that is massive as well. Like it is massive, but I think I guess to counter that as another skill that you need alongside that is you really need to focus on your own critical thinking in terms of being able to
100%.
analyze, because the bit that you can't do is get over reliant on AI. We already know that we have to work side by side it. We can't just let it do everything. And if you get to that point where you are head down in AI, you do learn everything about it. That's great. That gives you a massive knowledge set and you know, a definite step up in the industry. But you have to be able to critically think, and that's what's going to be able to get you further, like progression as you kind of build your way up through.
And I think it also, even for us as well, if we don't learn it ourselves,
Completely
we'll get
agree.
left behind.
Completely left behind.
I know a few years ago, Joey, when in the earlier days of the social app, and we were talking about paid media, and you were talking about one of your previous agencies about how it was, once upon a time it was super manual and everything like that. And you're like, the agencies that were doing that a few years ago were getting left behind. And it's now, we don't want to be that agency or team of marketers that people in the 5 years time look at and go, God, they
got left behind. But I still find it baffling because I still do look into ad accounts and I still see it set up that way. And I'm like, what are these, what is going on here? What are these people doing? Because I mean, that was my job when I first started. If we even look at that, getting rid of almost like entry level kind of roles, that was my job when I started in PPC. It was to go in, I would manually upweight and downweight bids. I would manually upweight and downward bid modifiers on different genders, locations, all of that kind of stuff. It does it all for you now. You don't need to do any of that. So what people are doing at an entry level now is wildly different from what I did when I first started. And that was only 7-8 years ago now, so it's not even like on the grand scheme of things.
It's not that long.
It's not even that long.
Sometimes I find it quite interesting because we'll go to pitch sometimes, and I'm going to be quite careful how I say this, but we'll obviously go and we'll talk about how we need to work with AI. The old way of targeting, for example, was loads and loads of specific audiences, and you can still do that in some places, but now we would suggest to let AI and the algorithm kind of do its thing. Like, we're not smarter than a computer from that perspective based on the data that they have on the users on that. And sometimes you will get challenge from people that have maybe been in this industry for 20, 30 years, and they kind of look at you and go, oh, you're just being lazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like, we're trying to help you use your marketing budget more effectively. Like, let us focus on the strategy that the platforms that you should actually put in your budget into, the creative that you're going to be doing, because if your creative isn't targeted enough, you're not giving the algorithm anything to work with at that point in time. So I think that's one thing that we're probably going to go through a round of again, basically. And you do see it sometimes where people kind of look down at companies that are using AI or sort of pro AI. It's kind of been like, oh, well, you're just lazy in a way.
It's really it is really tricky, because we're talking at the moment about our positioning and our service offering across the whole agency, and you see a lot of websites now that are like AI powered or AI this, AI that, and it's a question mark to think like, to what level is that then being delivered right now? But if you're not at least gearing up towards it, then like we said, sort of will get left behind. But it's how you openly communicate that. I guess for us as a service provider and an agency, how we actually communicate what we do and how we do things.
It is very much, you have to be careful with it as well, because it's such a buzzword at the moment, and you have to use it in a way where it actually brings value and not just using it for the sake of using it, because everyone is using the word AI to try and make themselves stand out from everyone else. But actually a lot of the way that it's being used at the moment, just as a term, isn't correct.
No, it's not. And do you know what my biggest pet peeve is? When people use the word or use the term AI just to try and sound smart, but they misuse it with AR.
Yeah.
And I see it in the creative space quite a lot. Like you'll see, and I'm like, that's not actually AI, that's AR, and they're very completely different things. So like I think people, you get CGI, AR, and like just within this realm of marketing that we're in, like the creative space, there's so many new acronyms that are used to describe kind of new advancements and stuff like that, and people are just getting really confused and they don't know how to use them properly. So that is a really good point. One tool that I have been using, which you introduced me to, which has been great, has been Granola, the note taker. We've tested a few AI note takers. I think it's a good thing because it just enables everyone to be a bit more present in the room. Like someone doesn't have to be dedicated for it. And that's actually a way where AI has enabled us to be more present with one another as opposed to taking away from it. But Granola is great because you still kind of probably need to spend a minute afterwards just checking what it's done, but it properly summarizes the notes and like connects something from the end of the conversation to the start of the conversation. It's a really good tool.
I do think, though, I was thinking to myself, I'm surprised like Google Workspace just haven't bolted that on as a feature. Like it would be so easy for them to roll that as a note taker. I think Zoom has one. I'm not sure how good it is, but I'm surprised that they've just bolted it on as a feature.
Surely from a business perspective, these like AI note-taking tools, they're just building up the business to be sold to a Google or
that will happen.
Because ultimately,
it will get consolidated and
you've got Microsoft and Google, probably your two biggest workspaces that people are utilizing. People want something that's going to be easy to slot in. They're not going to pay additionally for a third-party platform.
The good thing about like these third-party platforms, though, is that it covers all tools, right? So you're not just stuck. And naturally, we have some clients that are on Teams that we do have calls with on Teams, don't we? So we need to be able to flex how those tools do support us.
But yeah, anyone listening, try Granola. It's a really good tool.
The best one out of many I've tried, yeah.
Agree. You, on your team, you're trying out some new tools at the minute.
We are, yes. It's exciting. There's kind of like two things that we really want to get sorted, I guess, in the first half of this year. One is building our own copy model for ChatGPT, which should just allow the team to essentially plug in all the prompts that we'll build into it with the website, so it's able to kind of gauge tone of voice from clients that we're looking to pull copy together for, and it's going to spit out all of the copy that we need from each of the parameters that we need within Google, for what we need on Meta, across all of the other platforms as well, which is super exciting because that's going to be a massive time save, because copywriting does take up a lot of time.
I think it's nice from the sense that it's easier to start from somewhere rather than starting from scratch. So the team are given something to work on, and they can take it from being good to exceptional, rather than having to go from nothing to good to then exceptional. It just means that clients can pay for less time, and that sounds like a strange thing to say.
We can reallocate our time on the
value adds for clients, which is the strategic piece. Really, that's the bit that they want from us. Certainly the way that it's developed over the last few years. But yeah, I mean it's all very, very good that we want to get to that stage. But like you said, Zoe, there's still a layer of human checks that have to be done, and because it's like we mentioned, it's still not perfect yet, and we can't just lean everything. Well, this is it, and this is why you still need that layer of critical thinking in there, because you still need to review all of that copy that's spat out to make sure the tone of voice is correct. So make sure
even that note, like what we've just said there, and I'm not saying this is spooky when we may want to end up cutting this out, but that's the job of an exec to come up with that base copy. It goes to a manager to get checked. Now you're skipping that. You're going straight to the manager for the checks from AI. So that entry-level role, as we've already discussed.
Their role will be to prompt.
But that takes less time.
Yeah.
So the entry-level role is going to completely change, and you're going to need to
check everything and make sure it's okay before I check it.
But it's still less time.
It will just be completely different, though, because I still think people still need the knowledge to get to manager level, right? We don't want to get to the stage where we only have managers, because there's still a knowledge gap between where you have to train people up to the level to have them.
And I still think you need to be investing in that younger workforce as well. Like that's your responsibility as an employer and as a business. Like we need to find a way to get people in and keep them trained and make sure they're not missing out on core skill sets so that they can progress.
Yeah. I also think on the copy thing, not only is it a time save, which means we can then put time in other areas, but also I do think we're going to get, maybe today we might only come up with, let's say, 3 to 5 variants as a team member. We now could get 10, 20, 30, 40 different variants. So actually the broad scope of how we write copy, structure it, is going to be far greater. So we're actually going to have more pieces of copy to test ultimately. So I do think it will actually drive better results through that, because we have now more variants to test. We can understand how our audience reacts to different lengths of copy, or different formats and ways of structuring that copy could be. So I do actually think it will genuinely deliver better results.
Have you seen comments on ads? I've seen quite a few of them where people will look at an ad and they'll go, "This copy screams ChatGPT." Do you know what the telltale of ChatGPT is? It's the long dashes that they put in things. Have you spotted that? So if you are writing a sentence and you want to take a break in it, you might do like dash to say this is a connected point type thing. The dash that ChatGPT puts in there is an extra long dash. I don't even know if it's available on my laptop, and it doesn't put a space on either side of it.
That is the right way.
It might be, but
it's not how it is.
But that might be grammatically correct, but that's not how we as humans have treated that and adopted that.
But what I found great, because when I'm going back to the SEO conversation, what I do is also prompt, please exclude all of these words. I've got a long list of words to exclude and phrases or terminology, and then without that, an AI detection tool goes, this is 100% written by AI. As soon as you include that list, it drops it to 50%. It's 50% chance this has been written by AI, and it doesn't know.
It's the thing with it. You get out what you put into it. So you have to give the right prompts. You have to feed it with the right information. The lazier you are with it, the more AI it becomes, and that's the balancing act.
Do you think we'll get to a point, because obviously now on most major platforms, I think on Ads Manager you have to select if your content is been created by AI, or there's a detection thing or something of that nature where you get a label basically. Yeah. You don't get that for copy. No. But I guess there's a couple of questions. Does Meta, it might have an AI copy generator built in. It does. Yeah. Is it good compared to the other options that you have on the web?
It's what it spits out, I would say, is very what I would call traditional cheesy ad copy. So it's not, you put your one variation in, which it will read that. And to be fair, it's reading off one variation of copy text that you put in, which really isn't much for it to go off, which is probably why the examples that it gives below aren't that great. But they're not amazing. I think we're better off generating it ourselves and building it ourselves and then putting it in rather than letting Meta's one do it.
That's
It's just
interesting though,
not
because Meta has
amazing.
access to so much information that they could use to build that, like your Instagram caption copy, like how you reply to comments. That's a shame that it's not using all of that.
But it probably is better at driving performance, but it's not on brand. That is the balance of brand and performance.
That's always
that's that debate, to be honest.
But you don't get a label to say that your copy has been AI generated. I'm wondering if they will, because they've done it for actual assets. I don't know if they'll do it for the copy. And like you said, for SEO, for example, like it'll scan it, and if it acknowledges that it's like 100% AI, for example, then it will flag it.
I was reading something the other day about Pinterest as well, and it's just going to become an AI generate all assets on Pinterest. People are just going to start spamming it with like AI generated content because it's such a visual. Yeah, that's what the challenge that they might have as a platform. Obviously, they're leaning into it, and their new ads like campaign type with the AI sort of similar to ASC, but in terms of just an organic presence, I'm sure there's going to be brands out there that are just going to.
I mean, the visuals that you can get from AI generated imagery now, they look so real, and I do wonder what the future is for creative in that asset, because if we don't need to go to shoot somewhere and we can basically come up with what our dream location is, what our dream model looks like, why would you do that if it looks real?
I've seen, there's a guy that I follow on Twitter. One of his businesses is an AI model, and it looks incredible. And then he's shown like how he works with fashion brands, and they're saving so much money on using models, and then the clothes fit perfectly on this model, and it's just incredible.
I mean, that I query, because to look at an AI model wearing like a CGI or a crafted 3D version of a piece of clothing. Okay. But
is it putting like the exact sizing in so the fit is right? Because that's always one of the things with fashion when you're buying it online, right? Because you look at it on a model whose build might be completely wildly different from what your build is. So actually what the fit is going to be on them is not what the fit is going to be on you.
It's a model the model themselves, you're not like prompting the fashion website with like, this is my build type of thing, and it gives you a model.
I think that's the future,
I think that will happen.
I think we'll all have like
here's my measurements.
It could even be
that'd be cool.
So intense. Like, whenever celebrities have their body double mannequins that they send to designers to get fitted on. Imagine if we all end up going for like 3D body scans, and instead of going and trying stuff on in person, we just like online, we go, okay, model scan, try that on, show how it's going to look at me, and it will tell you if it's going to be too tight in the waist. I think that actually probably will end up happening. Like that could be
unlimited potential.
And then we're also testing some tools on a paid perspective just to take some of that campaign building. We're not 100%
AI.
It's not necessarily
it's not AI.
No,
I didn't realize that.
So it's it's definitely going to be a time save for us. Basically, you've got functionality at the moment within Google Ads, which is Google Ads Editor, which allows you to go in, bulk edit everything that you're doing, which makes things super, super quick in terms of everything that you're doing from like a campaign build perspective on Google. The paid social platforms don't have their own versions of those, and the ad platforms themselves are a bit clunky to use and can be a bit buggy sometimes, and you'll switch things on, and then when you set them live, they're not actually on because it's not saved properly and all of that kind of stuff. So it's just, a method of us being able to try and save time in terms of the building output.
Oh, so it's more of like a bulk edit. Okay, fine.
More of like a bulk editor. But again, it still lends itself to the point in terms of kind of when we come back to that, you come back to that positioning piece, and the fact that AI is giving us a time save, it's still looking at other time saves that we as an agency are trying to implement so that we can, again, leverage the team's time more on that strategic piece for clients.
If you were going back to the start of your career, and I know you mentioned what you would be doing, would you be worried? Do you think and people kind of coming into their career should be worried? I don't think they should. I think they just need to throw themselves into it and learn more about it. But it's daunting, I would say.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
You just have to embrace it and run it head on.
I think that's it. It's always embracing it rather than pushing it away. Don't hide away. Don't shy away from it. I look back to the start of, again, my career, like when I started in PPC, when I was doing manual bid changes, everyone was like, oh no, I don't want to use all of the new automated bidding strategies, just taking my job away. Don't do that. Like, don't do that. But then you start using it, your performance increases by 50% because it's way better at doing it than what you are. And then actually, you then just naturally pivot your time in terms of what you're doing to try and get additional value for your clients in other means. So it's,
I guess it might flip it, to be fair. Like, in entry-level roles, they'll have more time to spend with more senior people to be able to learn the strategy. So they might actually
there'll be more time,
exceed. Like, they might get better quicker.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be more time for learning and development and training. Just naturally, because there will be more time available to be able to do that kind of stuff.
I think you'll have the people that will really stand out and do the best are those that are the most strategically minded. Their critical thinking skills are the best. It's kind of going to, I think those are kind of the bits that people need to really be developing. And it is almost a little bit on your, if I was in my final year of uni, I would be really focusing on building my soft skills so that I could then go in and utilize those the best I possibly could to intake the information that was being given to me. Because it's not necessarily important. You need to be good at the doing, but the doing is going to be less of your role. It's going to be more about the thinking. And if you haven't developed the softer skills to be able to think in a way that's going to drive you forward.
You kind of have to do the doing, though, to be able to generate that.
But then that's the issue that we're going to have coming up, is that the doing, the things you're doing are going to be different because it'll be prompting and stuff like that.
Yeah, they'll be different. But they'll still get you. They'll still get you there. 100%. It's just, we don't want to sound like boomers that are like scared of the next thing, because
we're not.
The next thing after AI, after that.
No, but I think we do have a duty of care, and any employer does, to kind of support those that are coming up, because they're going to be doing a very different role. And like, I'm not even 30 yet. They're going to be doing a different role to any of us did whenever we first started. So it's like a support system.
Just wait until we have robots doing your job.
Stunning. Thank you for that, Jack.
And on that note,
do you guys have anything else?
It's going to be like Transformers.
We're going to program robots. That'll be the next role. Prompting a robot.
Do you guys have anything else about AI that you would like to add? Any feelings?
It's good, isn't it?
Let's crack on.
Yeah, all right. On that note, thank you so much for listening. If you're listening, watching, whatever you're doing, please make sure to like and subscribe. We publish podcasts on a weekly basis, and feel free to let us know if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover.
Subscribe, guys.